Hello, and welcome to the Spiritual Solopreneur Podcast. If this content resonates with you, please like and subscribe. My guest today is Christian Stone. Christian is a Reiki teacher, card reader, and coach with the mission to help build 10,000 Reiki businesses for a better world. He is the founder of the Reiki Business Collective, host of Build Your Reiki Business podcast, and creator of the Reiki Business Summit. He owns and operates Standing Stones Healing for online and in-person Reiki card reading, coaching, and courses. He is also the author of several books, including Reiki Business Ready, 6 Ways to Know You're Ready for a Reiki Business, and Throwing Stones, a Rune Reading Guide. Hi, Christian.
Hello, Bev. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here and welcome to everyone tuning in.
Thank you so much. And congratulations on that fantastic goal of helping 10,000 Reiki business. How's it going? How
Well,
many you got?
here's the thing with the number, Bev. It's just a number. In that, I was going for a big number because I thought, okay, I want to help build businesses because I want to help spread the love and the light, and the world needs Reiki. And the truth is, the world needs all kinds of spiritual businesses right now. But I thought, okay, well, what about like uh, a million? I was like, well, a million, that's too many. I'm never gonna get to a million. 100,000, oh, that's a lot too. I was like, 10,000, that sounds doable, but still big, right?
Yeah,
And it depends on how you do the counting. The truth is that I'm not specifically counting because it's not about the exact number, it's about the impact. It's about the impact that 10,000 Reiki businesses can and will make on the world, because those 10,000 Reiki businesses are going to help thousands and thousands of clients. They're going to train thousands and thousands of new Reiki students, new Reiki practitioners, new Reiki teachers who will go on to teach and serve thousands and thousands more. And so that ripple effect, that impact is really what matters. It's not about the number, it's just a big fancy number. It's about the impact.
gotcha. And it's totally will like you said, ripple out. It'll be an exponential. It'll be 10,000 exponentially more than that. So
Exactly. Yes.
fantastic. So how did you become so passionate about Reiki healing?
Yeah, thanks, Bev. So back in 2014, I was a teacher at a community college. I was a staff member and professor at a community college. And I had been interested in spiritual things for a long time. I was a card reader. I was interested in Eastern spirituality and philosophy. I was interested in all of the woo woo kinds of things, quote, woo woo, right? And so I had been at the community college taking some classes there, like card reading and psychic development, and just all kinds of really fun and interesting classes that the community college offered. And so when one of my coworkers came to me and said, "Oh, we're offering Reiki next semester," she thought I knew what it was. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but I read the course catalog and I said, yes, I'm taking this class. And so when I took my Reiki training, I didn't actually know what Reiki was. I'd heard of it just in passing, including because years ago I was an editor of a holistic, metaphysical, new age spiritual magazine. And so I had heard of Reiki, and I had made myself a note to find and interview a Reiki practitioner for the magazine, but I didn't actually know what Reiki was until I signed up for the class. And it really resonated with me. But Bev, throughout the training, I never thought that I would have a Reiki practice where I was offering Reiki to others. My point in learning Reiki was for my own personal and spiritual development, and it was nothing that I ever expected to have a business with. I remember quite clearly when my instructors in my level 3 training were talking about business things. So, oh, if you have a Reiki business, you want to do this and this and this. I paid attention because I'm a good student, but I was like, I distinctly remember in the back of my mind saying, well, this is never going to pertain to me. I'm never going to need this. Well, the universe is quite a jokester, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
And yes, so I never thought that I would have a Reiki business. So many Reiki practitioners say that Reiki found me. It wasn't that I found Reiki, it was that Reiki found me. And I absolutely can for sure say the same. Reiki found me. And that's how I became a Reiki practitioner. But for me, it really resonated with me on so many levels. The principles or the precepts that are really so profound. 5 simple rules for living about not worrying and not angering and doing our work diligently, with at its center that idea of just for today. That's really the mindfulness aspect that Reiki is all about. And so that's one of the reasons that it resonates with me so much and that I am so passionate about Reiki is just it's a simple system for bringing mindfulness into our lives and into the lives of our clients.
It's a philosophy in a way, as well as a healing modality, I guess, or method. Yeah, so for those who of us who are, more like you were back then, what is it? What is the healing aspect of it? How does that work?
Great. Great question, Bev. Thanks for that question. And I do have a recent episode of my podcast on explaining Reiki because this is a real challenge for practitioners, especially newer practitioners, but even people who are familiar with Reiki and even practitioners who have been practicing Reiki for years still sometimes pause and wonder, what exactly is Reiki? And talking about Reiki is often a real challenge for all kinds of practitioners for all kinds of reasons. But when we talk about Reiki, I believe that we really need to talk about it in 2 ways. Number one, the level of the system of Reiki, and number two, the energy Reiki. So, the system of Reiki was founded back in the 1920s by Mikao Usui in Japan. And there were other forms of Reiki at that time, but he solidified his Usui Reiki system. And this system is based on Buddhist, Shinto, and Japanese Eastern philosophical beliefs of things like, mindfulness, meditation, and that idea of just for today. And so the system of Reiki, as a system with Japanese roots, has different aspects of it. It has the precepts or the principles. There are 5 principles that are the foundation of Reiki. It's what Reiki is all about. And these are things like just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I will be grateful. Just for today, I will be kind to every living thing. They're very simple, but they're not easy.
Yeah.
And yet they are so very universal. Anytime that someone says something like, well, Reiki is evil, that's the devil's work, I just point them to the precepts and say, this is the foundation of Reiki, and I don't know how anyone can read the Reiki principles and say that they are evil. No way. And so that's one aspect of the system of Reiki. Another aspect is, of course, the hands on healing, which is what many of us, most of us, think about when we hear the word Reiki and are familiar with, having a Reiki session. That's not the only aspect of Reiki, but it really is the most popular. And in this hands on healing aspect of Reiki, we can have a session with someone in person or distance. We can send Reiki across time and space. Now, this gets into the number two aspect of Reiki that is really helpful for us when we are explaining Reiki, and that's the energy Reiki. And I like to think of the energy Reiki. It's known as spiritually guided universal life force energy of all things, energy Reiki.
Wow.
But I like to think of it as, and it really is very much the idea of chi or prana, so the chi of qigong or tai chi. And it's just this universal life force energy that flows through everything, is in everything, it is all around us. And so when we have a Reiki session, many practitioners will say we are sending Reiki. And in some ways, sure, we are, like we might, I think, send a prayer or a blessing. But if Reiki is always already in everything, then I don't have to have Reiki sent to me so much as I believe the system of Reiki calls us and encourages us to realize that we are already Reiki, that we always already have Reiki flowing through us and in us. And through things like a a Reiki session, we are able to get into the flow or even really recognize that we're already part of that flow, which helps us get into that relaxed, mindful, meditative state. And that's where true healing lies. We know this from study after study, Bev, that being in a relaxed state, the parasympathetic versus sympathetic state, being in a relaxed state rather than in a fight or flight state does miracles for our healing. And so Reiki allows us to get into that meditative healing state to allow the body to do its own healing work.
Interesting. Okay, I gotcha. So the Reiki is that does that word mean chi in
Yeah,
another language? Yeah.
Yeah, so it is Japanese, and really it's this idea of the steam that rises from the rice when the rice is boiled. And that's really the essence of chi. That's really the essence of um, that universal life force energy. It's ethereal. It's really almost in a sense mystical. I think of it kind of like gravity or air or, like the energy from the Big Bang. It's here, it's there, it's everywhere, but where?
Well, well, is there an aspect of channeling it, channeling a concentrated amount of it towards someone for healing?
Yes, yes. So I like to think of it, and you'll find, Bev and listeners, that many practitioners, there are an infinite number of ways of describing and explaining Reiki, and there are really an infinite number of ways to think about it as well, since, everyone puts their own spin on it, just like we all put our own spin on the idea of God and universe and spirit. And so, too, you'll find lots of different explanations of Reiki. And so, yes, indeed, we can send universal life force energy to someone. In a concentrated way, absolutely, you could think of it that way. Bev, I've never thought of it this way, but maybe it's like, like the frozen can of orange juice concentrate that then you just add water and it's orange juice. Maybe when we're offering Reiki to someone, we are sending the frozen can of
It's
orange juice
concentrated.
concentrate.
Yeah, it's concentrated life force.
Yeah, but we all already have that in us. So often we think that a Reiki practitioner has like special magical gifts due to the fact that they have received some special blessing. And yes, Reiki training is very important. And yet, we do all have Reiki in us, and we all have the ability to, if not practice as a Reiki practitioner, to send love and light and blessings and prayers to one another. And in a sense, isn't that universal life force energy as well? And so, yes, indeed, when we have a session or we receive Reiki from a practitioner, it's really, yeah, Bev, maybe like the concentrated orange juice frozen can. I like that. Thanks.
Anytime. That's always what I thought it was. Well, tell me then about the hands because, I know people who do practice Reiki kind of on a regular basis and their hands get hot. So what's that about?
Yeah, yeah, great question. I do want to say that if you are a Reiki practitioner and you never feel anything, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that your attunement didn't work. It doesn't mean that the energy isn't flowing through you. Remember, it always already is. It doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. And if you are a client receiving Reiki from a practitioner and you don't feel anything, it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It doesn't mean that your practitioner doesn't know what they're doing. We can and do have a whole range of experiences and sensations when it comes to Reiki. And so none of those are bad or wrong. And so if you don't feel heat when you send or even receive Reiki, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But yes, it's true. Some practitioners' hands do heat up, do get warm. For me personally, sometimes my hands might get warm. More often, I'll get warm like everywhere.
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
just my hands, but I'll get hot. But that's just sensing and feeling the energy. Now, in the system of Reiki, there is a system for sensing the energy and then, the different levels of sensation. So, oh, if it feels hot, then it means this. And you want to hold your hands and send Reiki there until the sensation dissipates. But I don't practice that specific Japanese part of the sessions themselves because I believe that it's very difficult to know exactly what any one particular sensation means in any individual Reiki session, whether felt by the practitioner or the recipient. And so when we're receiving Reiki or when we're sending Reiki, indeed, we might feel heat or warmth. And to me, it just means that we're feeling the energy.
Yeah. You mentioned attunement.
Mhm.
I've had one. I've had two actually many years ago, and to this day I don't know what it was really.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
is attunement?
Yes, great question, Bev. So, this is one of those places where there's some discussion among Reiki practitioners about exactly what it is and what it does. Now, some practitioners will say that attunement opens you up to be a greater channel for Reiki, the energy. And so when you have an attunement, it's offered by a Reiki teacher who's trained in teaching Reiki and able to give attunements. And some will say that this attunement opens you up to greater levels of the energy and to be receiving and sending greater levels of the energy. And other practitioners will say that, well, since we're already in a sense attuned to Reiki because we always have it in us, an attunement is simply a ritual that reminds us of our abilities that we all already always already have. Now, I will say that on my Reiki journey, I've moved from the former to the latter in my view of it. So, yes, I believed, like many Reiki practitioners on my Reiki journey, that being attuned meant that I was opened up as a channel to Reiki. And I taught this to my own students for many years until, as I thought more about it and reflected on it, and realize, well, we're already Reiki. We already have Reiki flowing through us. So are we then being quote unquote attuned to something? Like, for instance, are we attuned to the Big Bang? We're already always a part of the Big Bang and can't be separated from it. And so I have come to view attunement as a ritual. Now, ritual is really important. We know from study after study and from ancient cultures steeped in ritual that ritual itself is very powerful as a signal to the brain that change has taken place. And so I see the attunement and some different Reiki lineages, so different um, ways of learning Reiki, different teachers, and different family trees of Reiki will call an attunement different things. Maybe Reiju, or an ignition, or a placement. Attunement is the most common term for it. But I have come to view an attunement as a powerful ritual in which the teacher is really helping the student to remember who they are and what they can do.
Interesting. Is it common for something to happen during an attunement or for the person receiving it to experience something odd or unusual?
That absolutely can happen. And so I know from my own attunements, like I felt it. So I could feel the energy. I could feel it just felt, and I felt so good. It felt so meditative and calming. I was totally in the flow. Energetically, I was totally in that energy and could feel it. For others, they don't feel anything. And that's okay. It doesn't mean the attunement didn't work. And some have really profound experiences during and after their attunements. Any and all of those are very common and valid, and none is better than the other. We all have our own unique Reiki journey, and one Reiki journey is not better than another. So, like the practitioner who might not feel any heat in their hands, it doesn't mean that they're any less of a practitioner. And the practitioner who doesn't feel anything during an attunement doesn't mean that they're any less of a Reiki practitioner. And the one who does feel something really profound, I mean, that's awesome. Good. And it doesn't mean that they're any more special or more anointed or more quote unquote powerful as a Reiki practitioner.
Right, exactly. So in my case, as an example, somebody like me, I was attuned many years ago. I did have a sort of experience where had my eyes closed, but I felt that there was a huge light. You know how if you have your eyes closed, you can still see a huge light if there's one shining in your face, right? It was something like that. And when I opened my eyes, I realized the room was completely dark, and I said to the person, where's the light that you were shining? And, there was none. But anyway, so there was that. But then, years have gone by, and I've used it occasionally on my dogs, but years have gone by and I don't practice, like you're doing it every day. Can I still just pick up where I left off if I wanted to start flowing Reiki again regularly?
Yeah, great question, Bev. And first, I want to say, what an awesome experience. I love that. Thanks for sharing your attunement experience. That is definitely one that some people have, but again, not everyone. And it's okay if you are listening and you didn't have that amazing experience that Bev had. But the truth is, Bev, that yes, you can jump right back into your practice at any time. Reiki never leaves us. And once we're attuned, we are always, for the rest of our lives, Reiki practitioners. And so I have heard some Reiki teachers say to me, "Oh, I can't stand it when I have students who go off and then don't practice Reiki. I think it's such a shame that they take my class and then they don't do anything with it." And I don't agree with that at all, because we never know what someone's path is and how their journey might unfold. And maybe they were only meant to encounter Reiki in that one class. And maybe they were only meant to have your class and learn Reiki and move off and do other things on their journey. Maybe they will come back to it years down the road. We don't know. And so, one thing I really want to encourage us to do is to not judge one another's Reiki journey. And so, for instance, if we're teachers and we have students, and I tell this to my students, I say, if you go off and it's years down the road and you come back to me and you call me up and you say, "Christian, I'm so sorry. I haven't been practicing Reiki. I feel so bad." I'm going to tell you, don't feel bad, because I don't feel bad. It's just simply part of our unique journey and our own unfolding journey. And so there's no guilt in that at all. Bev, I once received a message years and years ago from my spirit guides that guilt only exists in the human realm. That guilt does not exist in the spiritual realm. Guilt is a purely human emotion. And so, please, if you have not been practicing Reiki for some time and you're feeling guilty about not using it, anyone tuning in, please release that guilt, because Reiki is not judging you. Reiki, the energy, is not judging you. Reiki, the system, calls us to release judgment. So please don't judge yourself. And so, we can indeed jump back into our practice at any time. All it takes is just placing your hands on yourself and setting the intention to receive Reiki. That's all. That's all we need to do. If you are attuned to and can use Reiki symbols, draw a symbol, whether on yourself or something else, your food, your beloved animal companions, whatever it might be. We don't have to uh, jump back into it and with taking a whole new course or anything like that. We can if we want to. And sometimes students want a refresher course or a refresher attunement. That's all okay. But we can just start by just setting the intention and placing our hands on ourselves. It's as simple as that. And we can get back into it just that simply. I like to think of Reiki, our own personal Reiki practice, as brushing our teeth. So, we can brush our teeth every single day, which I think is better, doing the brushing of our teeth like for 2 minutes twice a day than to brush our teeth for half an hour once a week. And so I like to think of Reiki, our Reiki practice in that way, where if we can just do a few minutes of Reiki, self Reiki every day, that's going to go a long way for our own mental, emotional well being. And so I practice self Reiki every single day. I didn't always. And who knows how my journey might unfold? The truth is, Bev, maybe someday I'll stop practicing Reiki just because that's how our lives and journeys unfold. We never know where they might go. Now, I don't have any plans to stop practicing Reiki, but I also don't know the future. Remember, I never thought I'd have a Reiki business.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to encourage all of us to release judgment of where we are on our journey and to know that Reiki is not judging us. So let's not judge one another either.
Exactly. That is very liberating because I didn't think that that was true, that I could just start doing it again and, not having done it for many years. So that is
Yes,
an awesome point to be making. Thank you so much.
yes, absolutely.
You mentioned the Big Bang earlier. Why did you mention that? I just want to touch on that for a sec because I'm very curious. What's that got to do with Reiki?
Well, when we say the universal life force energy of all things, I mean, to me, what else is that except that Big Bang energy? And then where did that Big Bang come from? Not only do I not know the future, I don't know a whole heck of a lot. I sure don't know where we all came from, why we're here, or where we're going. All I know is that I am here in this moment. And it's this blessed present moment that is all we have. Later, Bev, we're going to separate here from our discussion. We're going to go on our way. People are going to stop tuning in to this video. Hopefully, they tune in the whole way and they stop when it's done. But we're all here in this moment together. And to me, that's an incredible miracle. And so when we talk about something like the Big Bang, universal life force energy of all things, I think to me, it just fills me with an incredible sense of awe and wonder and just gratitude as well. Like, wow.
Wow, indeed. That's a great explanation. It's the spark. It's the spark of life.
Yes,
Perhaps is one way of looking at it. That's great.
absolutely, Bev. Yeah.
Well, Christian, I want to turn to the business aspect just for a moment because that is your business at this point. I mean, I know you do practice Reiki as well, but you help Reiki businesses succeed. So, I guess my question there is what's different about a Reiki business versus some other business in terms of growth and marketing and success?
Yeah, thanks, Bev, very much. I appreciate that question. And, first of all, I want to say that it's so true that we really need spiritual businesses now more than ever. Whether that's a Reiki business, a card reading business, Akashic records, yoga, reflexology. I mean, let's just start the whole big long list, right? Or even support services for spiritual business owners like websites and marketing.
Yeah.
All of those things, Bev, are so needed right now because in so many ways we are increasingly disconnected and divided. And I think that as we can spread spiritual businesses, we can help to one another to recognize that miracle of all of us being here, that spark of life that we all have in us, that connection that we all have here on this incredible planet. When we think about the idea of all of us being one and we are all one, I don't know that there's any better proof of that than if we zoom out from the earth far enough and we turn back and look at it. It's just one spot of light in a big black void.
A
And
tiny
that
one.
Yes, yes, incredibly, right? And that one spot, I mean, that's proof that we are all one. And so the spiritual businesses help us to remember that and to bring us to that oneness. And so Reiki is just one way of doing that. Just like the system of Reiki is only one way of tapping into that universal life force energy Reiki, there are so many other ways, infinite number of ways to do it. The system of Reiki is just one way to help us all remember that connection and that divinity and to bring us to that present moment. What's different about Reiki is that Reiki isn't as well known as maybe some other things. Now, of course, it's becoming increasingly known, but still, it's not as common as other things like yoga. Yoga, of course, has become such a household word. Everybody knows what yoga is. Maybe even your grandma is a yoga practitioner, right? Or they do chair yoga in her nursing
Yeah.
home. And it's just so very household at this point. Other things are too, like maybe card reading. It's very common. Most people know what tarot is, even if they think it's evil or the devil. Most people know what it is, and you don't really have to explain it. But Reiki, that's a bit of a challenge for many practitioners because so many areas of the world still there are plenty of people who don't know what Reiki is, and it's not yet a household term. And so on our Reiki business journey, we're often challenged simply to talk about it because not many people know what it is. And so, whereas if we had a business selling shoes, we don't have to explain what shoes are. Everybody knows what a shoe is. But if I have a Reiki business, I'm going to have a lot of explaining to do about what Reiki is and how it can help. And so that's one added challenge, a big added challenge of starting and growing a Reiki business. It's just simply that we have to educate people on what our product is in the first place.
Exactly. And so what would be some advice for somebody out there thinking, I'd like to start a Reiki business? What's the first couple of steps that they can take?
Well, great. Thanks, Bev. Well, if you are thinking about starting a Reiki business, I have a whole book on it.
Oh,
Reiki Business Ready.
okay. There you
So I'll
go.
share I'll share some of the things from my book Reiki Business Ready, but I wrote it to help practitioners determine if now is the time to start their Reiki business and if they are ready to, and if so, what to do in order to be ready to start that Reiki business. And the first thing that I recommend for us to do if we're considering starting a Reiki business, and I'm going to zoom out to Bev and apply this to any kind of spiritual business. So if someone is tuning in and interested in something other than Reiki, I'll make this for you as well. But the first thing that I recommend if we want to start a spiritual business or Reiki business is to be doing the thing that we want to offer to others. So, what I mean by that is that if we want to have a Reiki business, I recommend first and foremost starting with our own Reiki practice. And so before we say, I want to offer Reiki to everybody and animals and my family and friends and the whole world, and I'm going to go rent an office and put out my shingle, my first recommendation is hold on, use the system for yourself first. So do it for yourself first. Number one, because you're going to get the benefits from it for yourself. Number two, because you're going to be able to talk about it from your own experience. And number three, if you ain't using it, how are you going to convince others to use it too? Right? So for Reiki, if I'm not practicing Reiki myself, I'm going to be challenged to try to encourage others to use it as well because I don't have my own experience to speak from. Or card reading. If I'm not already reading cards, then I'm not going to be able to talk about the benefits of card reading, to be able to talk about how it has helped me on my journey. So, the first thing I recommend is to be doing the thing that you want to share with others, that you want to start a business based on for yourself. Do it for yourself. So, practice your own self Reiki and have your own Reiki practice first. So, that's the very first thing that I recommend. I also recommend getting comfortable talking about Reiki because it's not always easy to talk about and it can be difficult to explain. And we are often afraid to talk about not just Reiki, but other woo woo spiritual things like card reading or even yoga. Sometimes, at least in the past, that was the case. It's becoming more common now, but sometimes some people might still be nervous to talk about this newfangled thing called yoga. And so as we talk about it, we're going to get more and more comfortable talking about it, explaining it, and get over those fears. We're so very afraid of rejection. I believe that the fear of what other people think is the number one thing that holds us back from moving forward, whether that's with starting a business or anything else that we want to do. We're afraid of what other people think. This, in and of itself, is not a bad thing because being worried about what others think is just part of being human and operating in a structured, civilized society, right? But it can indeed hold us back from something like following our passion for starting a spiritual business. And so, as we talk more and more about it, we're going to move through that fear of rejection and we're going to get more and more confident and comfortable in talking about it. And we need to be able to do that for the sake of our business. If we're selling shoes, we're going to need to be able to talk about shoes. And so having a Reiki business is no different. We're going to need to be able to talk about it to have a Reiki business.
Yeah.
So, those are the first few things that I recommend on a very basic level, Bev. And like I said, I talk about them in my Reiki Business Ready book. But I'm happy to share more ways that you can get started moving forward. But those are really just the very, very basics.
Awesome. Do you help people help the practitioners with like nuts and bolts kind of marketing help and social media and getting themselves out there essentially?
Absolutely. Now,
Okay.
one thing I want to emphasize when it comes to the marketing, the social media, all of the things, I tell this to all of my students and clients. And when they come to me, they're all different people. And so, what's really important is that we find and use what resonates with us and feels right to us and that we don't force ourselves to do something that just does not feel like it resonates with us. Pushing past fear is one thing, but if we find a real aversion to one particular way of marketing and everyone is saying, oh, you have to do it this way, no, you don't. You can and should have your Reiki business or any kind of spiritual business on your own terms. And so when I work with my students and clients, I make sure that they know that they can do what feels right to and resonates with them. And I have those discussions with them about what feels right to them and how they can do more of what feels good rather than forcing themselves through what doesn't feel good or feels like drudgery or feels heavy or fill in the blank kind of feeling. Like I said, fear is one thing, and we're going to have fear when we start and grow our Reiki business. That's normal. But it's important for us to take aligned action that resonates and feels right to us. And that's so very important when it comes to our marketing.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more about just doing it the way that feels good for you. Otherwise, you're just banging on doors that are not going to open, that are
Yes.
just going
Well,
to be.
Bev, you help practitioners with websites. So, talk to us about that idea of alignment with a website, because this is a question that I get a lot, and I have lots of conversations with my students and clients about is websites. And oh my, it's a big challenge for all kinds of spiritual business owners. Can you tell us a little bit about that importance of alignment and feeling good with our website?
Absolutely. You have to feel good with what is going into your website. You know, most of the people that I work with tell me that I get them. So, that is what resonates for me is to get that person intuitively and be able to design something that represents them. But beyond that, the messaging is so important and the marketing principles within a website in terms of the flow and how a visitor is viewing your site, how they get there, what the conversion is. If they are inspired to contact you and that kind of thing. And I often find that with some of the spiritual practitioners, have a trouble getting their messaging um, succinct and making it accessible for a visitor because they're wanting, as you said, that there's an education that's required. And so it's a balancing act between educating and marketing, educating and making it accessible, making it easy for for their visitors, to pick up what they're doing and understand and relate. So, there's a whole aspect of using the language that your audience might use, the importance of defining that audience. Who are you really speaking to? And that's I think is different than niching down.
Mm,
And we could
mm.
have that discussion all day, but
Yeah, but Bev, I think that you just hit on something so very true and profound when it comes to spiritual businesses, is that idea of the flow in the website, because that's really what all of us, I believe, in our spiritual businesses, Reiki or otherwise, are really going for, is that sense of flow within ourselves, within our business, and for our clients and students. And so, yes, of course, we want our website to have the same kind of flow that we want to have in our own lives and in the lives of our clients, for sure.
exactly, it should all align. Should all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm for those listening, I'm drawing a wave, a smooth wave across the marketing mix.
Yes, and I also want to emphasize that it's not always a smooth wave. And so when it comes to having a spiritual business, Bev, so often we have this belief that if it is aligned and if it is right and if it's meant to be, it's going to be easy. But that's not true.
Mhm.
We're going to have ups, we're going to have downs, we're going to have challenges and hiccups and frustrations. And that doesn't mean it's not meant to be. And that doesn't mean that we're doing something wrong necessarily. It just means that it really is part of the process.
Exactly. It's not going to flow every second of the day, even for a Reiki business, which is all about flow.
Yes.
You would expect it, but
Right, right.
not
Yep.
necessarily all the time. Well, thank you for that, Christian. And speaking of flow, we're coming to a conclusion, but I did ask you prior if you could pull a card for us or throw a rune, whichever you prefer, or both or whatever, just to ask the universe what message it has for us and the collective out there listening.
Oh, yes, indeed. Beautiful, Bev. Thank you. I'm honored to do that. I'll just grab my runes right here.
Perfect.
And for those listening who are like, wait, he was just talking about Reiki. I've actually been a card reader for longer than I was a Reiki practitioner. But my Reiki business started out as just a Reiki business. And started offering card reading later after I was offering Reiki sessions as card readings as a standalone offer. Um, so I've been a card reader longer than a Reiki practitioner, and I still do plenty of card readings. So let's see what the runes have to say.
Okay.
Now, if you are new to the runes, they are from the ancient Norse Viking language Elder Futhark, and each symbol has a meaning. And so this is the rune of, it's known as the rune of protection. It is in Elder Futhark, it symbolized the elk. And so, what I'm getting for us for a message from this rune is just a reminder that as we move forward on our Reiki business journey, on our business journey, on our life's journey, our spiritual journey, to just remember that we are protected. So often it can feel scary and vulnerable. I mean, putting ourselves out there in a business is a very vulnerable act. Going to a Reiki session is a very vulnerable act. And we can feel open, we can feel exposed, and we can feel anxious about that. We've got encouragement here from the runes to just remember that we're part of that Big Bang. We are part of that energy. We came from the Big Bang. And so we are always already protected because we're always already an essential part of that big universal life force energy that is in us and through us and all around us. And so even when we feel nervous to move forward on our Reiki business or any kind of business or any kind of spiritual life's journey, we're just being reminded that we have protection. We've got the angels, we've got the guides, we've got our ancestors all around us, with us. The energy is with us, in us, and through us as well. So thank you for that, Bev.
Thank you. What a beautiful message. I love that, particularly for those moments when we feel as business owners the flow is not quite there.
Yes.
Not, please remember the elk rune, we are protected. Thank
We
you.
are.
Thank you for
Yes,
that.
indeed. Thank
Well,
you.
Christian, thank you so much for being here. It's been absolutely awesome and a pleasure chatting with you. And yeah, we will get all your information down in the description box so people can contact you. Is there an email or just your website for would be the main contact point?
Yeah, I want to invite everyone, if you are a Reiki practitioner thinking of starting a Reiki business, or if you are a spiritual business owner or thinking of starting a spiritual business, definitely I recommend tuning into my Build Your Reiki Business podcast. Yes, it's geared towards Reiki, but any of the topics apply to any kind of spiritual business as well. So you're welcome to grab that, to tune into that. And you're also you can listen anywhere you find podcasts: YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Ask Alexa to play Build Your Reiki Business, any of those platforms. And you're also welcome to grab my free Reiki Biz Kit. It's full of information for Reiki, but also any kind of spiritual business owner. Um, all kinds of helpful information. And I've also included music in that kit as well. I play the Native American style flute, so I've also recorded a couple of tracks for our meditation and our sessions as well.
A man of many talents, a flute player as well. Thank you, Christian, for that.
Thank you, Bev.
Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to chatting with you again. Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. It's an honor.
Thank you. Bye for now.